Hey guys, and welcome to another video. First of all, fantastic feedback from the FPL chat we had the other day with Josh Ball, Dan Bennett, and Abdul Rahman. Fantastic feedback, fantastic views. Really appreciate it, and gonna keep the videos coming. Hopefully. So first of all, we're going to invite a man who's made his second appearance, and my goodness me, does he do a lot of things? Pretty much the original founder of at FPL Meets, even though he made me a founding member, which obviously I appreciate. Part of the Net That Hall, part of All About FPL, part of so many other things that he probably hasn't told me yet or I've forgotten. But it's Mr. Nima. Nima, how are you, man? You're muted.
Great start. I was saying it's nice to be back again, and I really enjoyed the episode last week as well with all the guests. So nice to see you streaming again, and looking
Thank you.
forward to today with everyone.
Absolutely. And speaking of everyone, someone who's making their long-awaited debut. My God, Mel and I have been trying to catch each other like the eclipse. She also is the first of many females I'll hopefully have on my channel, but it is Melina. Mel, how are you?
Hey Ray, hi Nima. Thanks so much for having me on your channel. I was looking forward to coming on here, and what better way than to talk about Arsenal? And you know what? I'm really looking forward to it.
Wonderful, wonderful. Checks in the mail. Thank you for saying that so eloquently. I really appreciate it. So, I think the best way to start it is let's go back a season. And Mel, I think we will start with you. What were your expectations going into last season?
So going into last season, considering we were out of Europe again, no European football whatsoever, we had a very thin squad. My minimum expectation was at least a domestic trophy, get a run in either the FA Cup or the Carling Cup, which is now known as the Carabao Cup, and finish in that top four spot. No excuses whatsoever. We spent the money. Now we have to put our money where our mouth is. We have to strengthen, or else we're going to fall backwards and be more behind in this whole Project Youth rebuild. Of course, that's not what happened, and we've all been pushed a step back and slapped into reality.
Nima, same question for you. Remember, start of last season, what were you kind of thinking? Because it was our first year without Europe in 20 odd years.
Yeah, no, I think I agree with Melina. I was expecting that by focusing on the league at the very least, we would get back into Europe, which was obviously a major priority. So it's good to be back there. It gives minutes to kind of a lot of the fringe players and youth players, which, I'm not going to deny it. I am obviously disappointed it's not in the Champions League. Equally, I'm trying to see the silver lining, which is that with the Europa League, a lot of these younger players can get opportunities that perhaps they wouldn't have got in the Champions League. So I think our trajectory for Project Youth, as you call it, it's still on. Like the squad plan is still there. But I definitely think the Champions League would have added rocket fuel to it, which we're now missing. And we're kind of watching our rivals strengthen around us. And who knows what next season holds now with much stronger squads arriving in the Prem.
I think that segues well into, so during the beginning of last season, my expectations were very much similar to the two of you. I was just thinking, well, we finished back to back eighth. So, let's get into Europe and hopefully a good cup run. But I found that during the season, my expectations started to change, obviously, with the form and the players that we got. Because you have to remember, we got a lot of these players about a week before deadline. So, of course, the expectations change depending on the quality of signings. And I think, Nima, I'll put this to you. Did you feel like your expectations started to, or your hope started to kind of change a bit, especially during January, February when we were showing good form?
That's a really interesting question. I'd say that actually going back even a bit further to kind of the first three games of the season, I only expected 3 points from those games. So when we were kind of on 0 points, it wasn't the major catastrophe that I thought that many rival fans ridiculed us into relegation banter. Obviously it was disappointing to lose to Brentford like we did on the opening day under the floodlights, but I kind of didn't think we were expected to do much against the champions of Europe and the champions of the Premier League. That back five we played, as you say, against City, I think it included the likes of Holding, Mari, Kolasinac, players that we never saw again in the starting 11. So I think for me, the season kind of started after the first international break when we saw that back line with the likes of White and Ramsdale breaking into the team. And I'd say that with the start we had, I was starting to worry if top six could even be possible. But come around January, February, as you say, I think we obviously took a gamble. We halved our wage bill. We got rid of a lot of players to prepare for the future, but we may have missed one or two gems that could have strengthened us in a top four pursuit. Equally, I think that the expectations of top four, they weren't there pre-season. Like when you look at all the pundits, you look at everyone and their expectations. Not a single person out of like 30 well-known ex-footballers had Arsenal in the top four. So the fact we even got into that debate with a very young squad, I think that was exciting for me. But ultimately, we kind of fell apart. The lack of depth showed, and the inexperience of the young players showed. So my only positive can be that I hope these kids learn from this and they never want to feel like that again.
Mel, pushing it to you, but maybe I arc it a bit differently. Is in January, Mel, you were quite vocal about us not making signings, and I think I may have responded to you, but I also tweeted myself that look, we spent 130 million pounds in the summer, and it's not something we've done a lot, and the net was actually I think above 100 million, and I don't remember the last time we spent over 100 million net. So after obviously selling the players as well. Did you feel like did you kind of see the capitulation happening considering we didn't strengthen in January, which is something you were quite vocal about?
Actually, I'm going to start your question a different way. I think, the first part, my expectations, like Nima was saying, no one had Arsenal to finish in the top four. Even myself, losing those 3 games at the start of the season, I thought, are we even going to make it back into Europe at any form? Europa League, Conference League, are we ever going to get our foot in that door even to begin with? And January, I was very vocal because our lack of squad depth, and especially because our center forwards were not performing. Aubameyang, Lacazette were not offering much service. I really thank them for their service in the past. However, Arteta had a lot of issues behind the scenes to work with these players, whether it was on the pitch or off the field antics. And January, not signing a striker, choosing to rely on Eddie Nketiah, who's a very young, raw player, who performed really well near the end of the season, which shocked me. I will be honest, that did surprise me, and I will give him credit when and where it's due. But relying the rest of the season on Lacazette, who clearly was not performing, he wasn't turning up when we needed him, whether it was big games or small games. He was just not putting in the effort, and it felt like he lost the momentum to play for the badge or lost the energy, whatever it may be. And choosing to rely on Eddie Nketiah and Lacazette for the rest of the season really did affect, our run that we could have had with that top 4 hopes. We still managed, to try to finish if we could, to give Tottenham a run and to give Antonio Conte a run in that top 4, hopefully for Champions League. Yes, we were not able to do so, but one thing I will say is the squad that we had in the past, like at the start of the season, we got rid of a lot of our dead wood and are still working towards that. So that's one silver lining that I'll look at, that we got rid of, a lot of players who were just not good enough for us, the likes of Pablo Mari, Socrates, Kolasinac, Pablo Mari, Bellerin, we loaned out. Some of these players didn't have the mentality that we needed moving forward. We're not leaders on the pitch. We have a great signing in Odegaard, but again, going back to that January window, my expectations changed because I knew, without a striker, who is going to bring goals for us, who's going to be of service for us. It felt like we were overplaying Bukayo Saka. It felt like we were constantly relying on the youngsters to turn up when our senior players were not turning up. But another thing I want to say, Ray, is my expectations also changed throughout the season. With certain players I thought were absolutely rubbish to wear the Arsenal kit. Granit Xhaka this season had an immense season, and I have to give him his flowers when and where it was due, because this season he was one of our better midfielders, bar Thomas Partey. Thomas Partey being injured, Granit Xhaka and even El Neni stepped in without complaining, did the basics that we needed. And I never thought we could rely on those players the way that we did this season. So that really did open my eyes a bit. But at the same time, not having that squad depth, relying on a very thin squad. We played only once a week, but the way that these fixtures came about us and certain players being made out of glass, Kieran Tierney, Partey, we struggled. And with a raw squad, like Nima said, I hope they learn from it, come back stronger, and put their experience from this season into the preseason moving forward. And this transfer window, it's all about squad depth to me.
I think just to add to that, if I can, Ray,
Of course. No, go
I
ahead.
think it's actually insane that we even challenged for top four
Yeah.
with a starting lineup that, regularly consisted of Cedric, it consisted of El Neni,
Keep going.
it consisted of Nketiah. So, I don't see any of those players. As you say, I'm glad that El Neni came in and did a great job, sure, but like we had 18 outfield players to everyone
Yeah.
else's 24, and the moment we lost Party, I think that's when we can see everything decline quite significantly. And like you, I think Eddie did really well once he got a run of games, and fair play to him. Like there's very few under 23 strikers who play regularly for like a big six team anywhere in Europe or the world, and he's definitely got a lot of growth to come yet. But I just thought it was a bit disappointing still, as you say, because it's like something that we never expected we could be in consideration for. We suddenly were. And I actually saw that in the form table from something like January to March, Arsenal were like joint first for the most informed club in Europe.
Yeah.
And we were tied with Man City. We had at one point something like, I think it was like 28 points out of 30 points in a run of 10 games. And that's incredible. But as you say, I think I agree about Lacazette, but one thing I will say is in the first part of that spell where we did really well, he was still at least assisting or something. But towards the second half of that period, like
he wasn't providing
he was literally doing
service.
nothing. Yeah, he was doing nothing. And then I looked at Nketiah and I saw some shocking stuff, damning stuff about Lacazette. Like Nketiah had like as many shots in the Premier League on target in like 2-3 starts as Lacazette did like all season. Nketiah had as many open play goals as Lacazette in a year. Like when you think there was a time when Lacazette and Aubameyang, took us through the Europa semi-final, 7 goals between them. They, battered Chelsea and City in an FA Cup semi-final and final. We were very far from those days, that's for sure.
No, really, really awesome points. I mean, personally, when I assess it, is with Lacazette, he kind of went through an impasse with his position. I think that Arteta wanted him to be more that water carrier. I think, going off topic just for a minute, but I'm going to be really interested to see how Man City play now, because Guardiola spent 3 seasons trying to play without a number 9 to try and dominate possession and win the Champions League. He hasn't won it. Now he's bringing in the number 9, and you have to change something to adapt to Haaland, because Haaland is he's a striker. And City haven't had a striker for a while. So I think, personally, I feel that's what Arteta tried to do a bit with Lacazette. He tried to bring him into kind of like that false 9. But I always said, well, why don't you do it with a player who's probably more comfortable dropping deep and having possession of the ball, which is something I never really felt Lacazette had, because he never really was that. And that's why I always looked at, why do we try Smith Rowe in that false 9? Keep the inside foot, well, basically to come into a diamond, and Saka and Martinelli are almost like inside forwards. So it's almost like a non-traditional 4-4-2 diamond, but it never worked out. And one thing I love about Lacazette, he always gave 100% effort, but at the end of the day, he wasn't good enough, isn't it? Just
it's a real shame because, like Lacazette, when he came to replace Giroud, like we almost felt like he came 1 season too late, because the year before we signed Petr Cech, he was the only signing we made. Like we were the only club in Europe that didn't sign an outfield player, and then Leicester won the title. And back then Wenger trusted on the players he had. Maybe he trusted them too much, and he didn't want to bring in anyone else to strengthen them. I think the key difference with Arteta that I see that I do like is he does like kind of have a very specific plan, and from what I've seen so far, like, maybe he's not the one who's going to see it to fruition in the long term. Maybe someone else comes in who can win stuff. But whether he's here or not, the base and foundation he's created for us is something that United are looking to replicate now. So I read something that, Man United, they're
he's
literally
changed
trying to
the
follow
mentality of the club, like from the Wenger days till now.
Yeah, he's like got rid of players that feel like they can just get in the starting 11 because that's their position. Like they now know that if you're Aubameyang, whoever you are, your club captain, if you're not doing what's asked of you, you're not going to play. And we saw that with Man United this year. So when Ralf Rangnick came in, he made some damning quotes to the press where he kind of said, look, these guys, I tell them what to do, and they go out on the pitch and just completely ignore me and just make it up as they go along. They don't follow any instructions. And we're seeing it this summer. United fans thought it was going to be a huge summer when Ten Hag came. and they're really struggling to buy anyone because all their main targets are being bought by someone else. All those links are slowly disappearing. And the reality is because they're where we were 2 years ago, where there's a bunch of mediocre players on high wages that no
Very
one
high
else will pay
wages.
for.
Yes,
And that's what we had.
100%.
We had very high wages for very mediocre players. You'd like to think with them gone, like I don't know if you remember, Melina, but I can't remember a season where we've gone into a window and we don't have to sell players to buy them. Like this is the first window I can recall where
Yeah,
we
this
can
is the
actually buy
first time we
players.
can buy players without selling them.
And that's
The
never
amount of
happened that I
money
can
we've
remember.
wasted just on players' wages, who clearly, some of these players didn't deserve those kind of wages, but we were throwing money like it's candy, and it took Arteta time to change that up and to get rid of the past deadwood from the Wenger era, from the Unai Emery days that were still lurking around the club that clearly weren't playing for the badge. Sorry, Ray. One thing I wanted to add to what you were saying
Please.
earlier about Smith Rowe as a possible 9. One thing I had a criticism for Arteta, being he's extended his contract. I see the vision that he's trying to do. I see the project that he's trying to do. And I agree with Nima. Maybe his fruition is not in the long term at Arsenal Football Club, but I think he's the stepping stone to possibly a better manager, a more experienced manager. And, you could argue that comes down to our board for hiring someone who had no, managerial experience whatsoever. We have one of the youngest teams in the Premier League. So I understand some of these talents are very raw, adjusting to the Premier League and still learning and adapting, like the likes of Sambi Lokonga, like the likes of Tavares, and even Ramsdale being relegated twice to come to Arsenal. That signing really shocked me, and I had to eat a lot of humble pie from that signing alone. But one criticism I have with Arteta is last season he played Granit Xhaka at left back, and it didn't work out for most of the season because Tierney was injured. He tried that last season and it didn't work out, and he knew damn well it didn't work out. But this season, some of the fixtures, he did the same mistake over again. And sometimes when you do the same thing over and over again and expect different results, it doesn't show much, responsibility or much managerial skills on you. And I don't know if it's because he's still learning on the job, or if it's something to do with stubbornness. I'm not sure, but that's something that I really had a criticism for throughout this season. And it wasn't just a Xhaka at left back, for example. Even the likes of Tavares, we're not playing him in the right position that he was actually playing for at his former club. And mind you, he's not necessarily the greatest signing, but maybe if we were playing players in their respective positions, we could get more out of them. That's just something.
Yeah, like if you look at Lokonga, right? So it's taken Partey 2 seasons to play the lone 6 pivot and like do it well for us. And as soon as he got injured, Lokonga got put in a lone pivot role on his own,
and he couldn't do it
first season, and he just couldn't do it, as you say. So and then he had to step in, and we had to have 2 central midfields with Xhaka as well, as you say. He's done so well this year. The moment we took him out of our midfield, it's like we were just absolutely dominated through the middle, and you'd think that we would learn from that mistake. I think he did try Smith Rowe as a false 9, but again, he tried it at an odd time. He tried it in the semi-final or whenever it was of the Europa League, and we got knocked out, right? So, like, I do think he does try stuff sometimes, but like even with Smith Rowe and these guys, he only got into the team when there was no other option. Like we'd brought in Willian 2 years ago. We went on a spell where we had like 3 points out of 30 points in 10 games.
That
Everyone
November,
thought he was
December period.
It was insane, right? And I remember at that time, obviously, then we saw what the team looks like if we actually have a creative midfielder playing like in Smith Rowe, and we were like, oh wow, like we've missed this. But I think our problem was we were very reliant on the young wingers to score, and as soon as the likes of Saka, Martinelli, Smith Rowe couldn't score anymore, which is understandable, there was no striker, as you say, who could do it. And Lacazette was not that guy. Like I remember I watched some matches where, Martinelli will do some incredible work, get up the pitch, look to cross it in, and there's no one in the box.
We can't finish in the final third.
Yeah, there's like no one there. So again, I think Lacazette, maybe we should have, and I think maybe it is a bit of stubbornness. Maybe he should have given Eddie a chance sooner. Maybe like Eddie should have been given the opportunity to play for that, spot much sooner than he was, because it was clear Lacazette wasn't working out. So I think the one positive though is that in the same way that this club is the youngest squad in the Premier League, obviously Arteta himself is the youngest manager. He's only just turned 40. He joined us at 37 years old. So I think he is learning on the job, as you say, Melina. So he's definitely got a lot to learn. But what I will say is we did try an experienced manager before, and that didn't work for us either.
Yeah,
so like,
we did.
Yeah, like we brought in Emery, and for all the ridicule the guy got, I remember reading that between 2012 and 2018, when he came to us, he had the most silverware of any manager in Europe in all of football. So we brought in what you could arguably say is the most experienced football manager in Europe in terms of winning, and it just did not work out.
And
so
he's won since. And he's won since.
And he's won since, which shows that he's an okay manager, but like maybe our environment was just so toxic that like it really needed to, someone had to come in and just get rid of all the deadwood. And perhaps our owners are cheap and they just wanted to pay a novice manager a very low fee to try and get rid of these people.
I agree with that 100%.
So I think that's, I had to switch over the segments a bit because you guys were going into a beautiful diatribe of words. But yeah, about Arteta, there was a really great, I mean, loads of great points, but the one I really hooked on from both of you is the fact that I thought Arteta did a wonderful job last summer and in January to just get rid of the weeds, isn't it?
Yes.
Like there's so much. I mean, look, a guy's failed to play or failed to perform, just get rid of him. I know you spent 30, 40, 50, 20 million wages, all that, but just get him out of there and just kind of try to reset a little bit. I thought he'd done a wonderful job in that, but if I'll answer this first, even though you guys were kind of saying it, was I feel Arteta really, we need to compete for top 4 again, I feel, for him to keep his job next season.
Yeah.
We can't be 5th or 6th and like 7 points off top 4. You know, we need to be challenging once again. And if we get the players that, you know, we look like we will possibly get, which we will talk about in later segment. I don't want to talk about it now. Then we definitely have that opportunity. Now, good faith can't last so long, especially when you're a club who's pushing for, you know, higher pastures to what we used to be. And Nima, we spoke this time last season about, you know, we want to eventually be a threat again. And that's all I want. I want us to be a threat again, because just because we're a big club, we don't have a divine right to be champions every single season. And I think a lot of fans forget that. You have to earn your right there. We are 5th and then 8th and 8th for merit. We didn't get screwed to finish 8th. We didn't get screwed to finish 5th necessarily. It's just we have to build back that kind of like that fortress of form and history and reputation again, to honestly be challenging at the top. So you both touched on it, but Nima, I think I'll go to you here. After 3 years, give me a summary of what your feeling is about Arteta.
Yeah, so I'm still pretty positive. I'd say the biggest positive for me is purely on the connection between the fans and the club. We've spent about half a decade in a very toxic setting where people were flying planes over stadiums asking Wenger to leave, and you know, all kinds of madness. We had people booing our captain off the pitch. All kinds of shit has been going down for 5 years. And you know, whenever I used to go to the Emirates and watch games, when we used to go behind, it was very scary. Like the stadium, you could feel an aura just take over. This season, I felt even when we went behind, the fans were behind the team. They were trying to give them energy. Like they realized that if they support, and because supporter means you support no matter what, right? And I think some people forget what a supporter is. And like I've seen people who used to go to the stadium and want us to lose so they can be proven right. And I think that's appalling.
Yeah,
like I'd rather be proven wrong and be like, you know what, like you said, Melina, I'd rather eat humble pie and our team does well because that means we're all happy, than sit there and wish us to lose just so I can say, see, I was right, this player's rubbish. See, I was right, this manager should be sacked. Like, I would much rather be proven wrong and see good things. So for me, just the fact that the club has got to a point now where the stadium, which was called a library, is actually not so much a library. It is loud, it is vocal. There are concerted efforts to try and make the fan base be kind of closer to the players and have like this identity that we're all in one community together. I don't think I've seen that from our team in years. And I think that's the biggest takeaway from me is, as you say, he got rid of the dead wood. He got rid of the players that were creating the toxic environment. They were leaking stuff, is what we saw at United this year. Players constantly on the fringes, leaking stuff to the media. All of that is gone. And I think his real test starts now because, as you say, he has to do it next year. And if it doesn't look good for us and we have a slow start, that toxic element will come back very quickly. But I think for now, there is good positive sentiment in the bank. Like there's some savings there, but very quickly, those will disappear if we don't have a good start and we start like last season. So I'd say all in all, we've obviously come back from 8th to 5th. Like we have improved. That there's no argument against that. We've improved. Whether we've improved as much as we want, maybe not. But I do think that we're only maybe a few pieces of the jigsaw away from having a squad that in the starting 11, it has a real identity, a real playing style, a real vision. And I'd say when I look at the Premier League, there's only like 3-4 teams I think have an actual style and philosophy. Those are basically City and Liverpool at the top, Chelsea to an element with Tuchel, apart from when they don't have their fullbacks. And you could say that likes of kind of Brighton also have an element of that. You could say that Spurs under Conte have looked a bit better, but I'd argue they rely on 2 world-class players to pull them out. So I'd say actually Arsenal, the way we play, the way we do things now as a team, the way the young players will fight for each other and die for each other, with the right additions, I definitely think we've created a culture that was not there for like 5 years. So I'm positive, but I just feel like people overestimated how quickly that change could happen. And that's why I think I'm still feeling positive, because now's the time for judgment, I think, this season onwards. But I think there was a lot of work to do, more than people realize. And United fans are going to see that this summer when they end up with 2 free signings. They can't shift the likes of Martial and whoever else they're trying to get rid of. And they're going to see that it takes a few windows to get rid of players you don't want, because guess what? No one else wants them either.
Yeah, so let's stick to Arsenal before I get dissed.
Yeah.
Mel, what are your thoughts specifically on Arteta in the 3 seasons? Because your tweets are like, sometimes they seesaw.
Actually, I'm very balanced in my views. I'm not too critical of him, but when I do criticize him, I also give him credit when he does things right. And you can't say that we didn't improve. We did improve clearly from going 8th to 5th. Defense is where we spent the most money. We have improved, in our defense. We've solidified our defense. And we have a goalkeeper that no longer plays up from the back, something that I haven't seen in a while in Arsenal. But one thing that Nima, I want to add to what he said was, it's not just the atmosphere in the stadium, but also on the pitch. There's cohesion and unity between the defense to the midfield that we didn't have in the past. There's a lot of times I've watched Arsenal waking up at 8 a.m. to watch Arsenal with no unity, no cohesion from the midfield to the defense. And it's very frustrating to watch. I'm starting to yell at my TV at 8 o'clock in the morning because these players don't know how to, pass to one another. They're not passing forward, they're passing backwards. And it's very, very frustrating. And I agree that it has taken Arteta a while to get rid of the toxic atmosphere that we had at our club, the likes of that whole group. Guendouzi, Ozil, Socrates, there was that group that was constantly leaking stuff to the press. Same thing that United has. And to get rid of that, to have your players and to get backing from the board, which, you can't say Cronkies have not spent. They have spent the money, and we've got signings. Some of you can argue that, some of the signings we shouldn't have paid that much for, but that's English tax. In the market that we're in right now, we were forced to pay that money. We were at no other option. Look at the price of Declan Rice right now, for example. The signings that we have, it's his signings. He finally chose the players that he wants, the players that he's scouted, not something necessarily directly from Edu. So this season is a real test for Arteta. And if we can't get into top 4 this season and properly either win a domestic trophy or challenge for that top 4 Champions League spot, then questions are seriously going to have to be asked, even more than it was this season. This season, no one had us to finish in the top 4. People thought Arsenal are going to get relegated. Rival fans, of course. But this season, Arteta has to finish in the top 4. There's no excuses whatsoever. He's given the financial backing last season. January got him rid of players that were no longer meant for us. We shifted on Aubameyang, and we were so close, but so far in figuratively, so far away. We have to strengthen our squad, and that's clear as day to me. But I can see the improvements in the squad, and also that hunger and mentality from certain players to be a leader and be vocal on the pitch. Before, I didn't see that in Arsenal. I didn't see that in the club that Wenger had in the later days. The likes of Ozil, the likes of, Socrates, Mustafi. Those players were just not good enough for us. And it's clear that we have a new mentality where we have young, youth, hungry players who want to win, who have that desire, who have that ambition. And, I can see a lot more tolerance for him from the fans as well. Yes, like Nima said, there are very toxic fans on social media who, want, instead of us succeeding, they want us to lose just so they can be proven right that Arteta's losing. And that's Precisely. Really like sick to me. That's sick-minded to me. Why would you want your club to lose? Just so you can be proven right? anyone who supports a club, they want their club to win. They want their club to be the best to succeed. That's the whole point of merit, right? Winning and succeeding. But I think overall, Arteta has improved from the previous years, but we still have a lot of work to do. And maybe we're a few jigsaw pieces away from properly challenging for top four, but I don't think we're far off. And one thing I want to add is not only do we have to focus on our in-house stuff in our backyard, but other teams behind us around the corner are strengthening as well. And if we don't improve, we're going to be left behind yet again.
I think just to add to that, waking up at 8 a.m., I can vividly picture who you're talking about. Whenever a mistake was made or a goal went in, I can just see the players' heads drop, and I can see Mustafi running and pointing to blame someone else who wasn't even involved in the calamitous defense. I see what you mean. Like, players were just blaming each other. No one was taking leadership.
Yeah, there was no accountability.
Exactly. Nowadays, I've seen like Gabriel score like an own goal, and Ramsdale's there like picking him up, saying, "Don't worry, we're going to win this. Come on, like just put it behind you. Forget what just happened." None of that was there before.
Yeah.
Everyone was just shifting blame. People were skirting away. I'd say some people were passing backwards just for their pass stat completion on the websites, so that
That's for damn sure. Let me. By the way, guys, it is exactly what I thought. It's a fantastic, intuitive conversation, not based on stress and just f-bombs here and there. It's really great stuff. Fantastic. There was great points you guys were talking about identity, and that's a huge thing I've been advocating on Twitter regarding Arsenal. And in fact, if I go to the next kind of segment, my season highlight is actually us having an identity, and also I love my team again. Now, Nima, I mean, we've spoken offline about kind of like our, going back to the euphoric times of Vieira and all those players, nostalgia, and how much we love the team. I watched us last season, and I just love our players. I love how we're trying to play. Something Arteta has done is he's instilled an identity of how he wants to play.
Yeah.
I can see how he wants to play. And
that's
I love
what I
that
was
way.
saying. I feel like there's only 4 or 5 clubs in the Prem that have an identity.
Precisely.
And we are one of them. Like, we might be early days, but we have more identity than the likes of United. But United don't even have an identity.
But that's what I mean. So, and last season was the first time I've been to the stadium. I went to a few games in years because I watch us on TV, very much like what you were saying, Mel. I was like, even when we were winning, I'm like, I just hate what I'm watching.
We're scrapping goals.
I'm fine if you're scrapping wins, if you're winning trophies, like I'd rather take the win than the way you play. That's why I loved old school Jose before he completely lost his mind, is that, he was getting the dubs. He was winning the trophies. And last season, I love our players, almost all of them. And I love the way we're trying to play. I love the identity. I love the bounce in the stadium. I love, like, when you go to the stadium, everyone's so upbeat. Everyone is, you don't feel the toxicity that you guys were talking about. Of course, you always have the trolls online and certain media channels, which I really don't advocate and make us look like clowns, to be honest with you. It makes us look petulant as a fan base because Arsenal, we were the original banter club, weren't we? We were the original banter club, and now you got
we're easy to target, right? Because
and we're easy to target because of a few individuals, which I'll give you the names and you guys will know. But
anyway. Not just that, we have one of the biggest global fan bases, right? And online, Arsenal fans are so active, and for any media organization, any newspaper, any press, it's very easy to bait click us to get ad revenue, and we all fall for it time and time again, and click these ludicrous headlines to be like, what is he thinking? And that's what they want. They're trying to make ad money because we run the online football world. Like, there are that many Arsenal fans. Like, I'm convinced that the whole of Nigeria support Arsenal over Nigeria. Like, honestly,
probably, yeah. The continent.
Yeah.
What team do you represent? Arsenal? No, country. Yeah, Arsenal. But my season highlight is that I know it's a big thing, and you guys can say what you want. You can have a player, you can have a moment, you can have a goal, you can have a game, however you want. But for me, as an Arsenal fan for over 30 years, is the season highlight is literally that I can see what we are now. So, Mel, what's your highlight? It could be anything you want.
I have 2. The first thing I want to say is the culture. I agree with you, like the whole culture and the atmosphere. but also the players. Some of the signings that we signed, I've never seen a more vocal goalkeeper in Arsenal in recent years like Aaron Ramsdale. I've seen, sometimes he's made mistakes, whether it was poor footwork or not, being in his respective position. But after the game, I've seen him come out and speak and say, I need to improve my game. I've made mistakes here. I haven't seen accountability like that in a very long time from this Arsenal team. And it was very nice to see that all over again. And some of these players stepping up. One of the players that I really was shocked before he went to AFCON was Thomas Partey. Thomas Partey, when he put on that Arsenal kit later on in the half of the season before he got injured, I was like, this was the Thomas Partey we should have had 2 seasons ago. And to see him come out like that in the flesh, to have that electrifying moments, that was something I was really proud of. And I was really happy with our midfield, along with Grant Xhaka stepping up. And in the past, when he had that altercation with the fans didn't like him. It felt like he won over some of the fans again, and it felt good. And I'm not his biggest advocate. I am not going to sit here and say I'm his biggest fan, but I was glad to see him this season really step up for us when we needed him the most. The midfield, you could see how displaced it was when he was not there. And the last season highlight I have is a game that we actually lost because of a officiating decision. However, the way we played that game, I was really impressed. Yes, Man City. I was shocked. I actually had to do like a triple
take. That first half was unbelievable.
Yes, that first half, I had to do a triple take to make sure that that's actually Arsenal playing.
Who else has done that to City?
Yeah. Why are Man City playing in red? Why are Man City playing in red?
That fluid football, I haven't seen that from Arsenal in years. And you know how long I've been praying for that. And even from Leicester, when we played Leicester away from home, that was an incredible game. Brilliant saves from Ramsdale. And that's when everyone, most of the fans started to see, Ramsdale's giving him a chance. And that's something that it took me a while, and I ate a lot of humble pie for it, because initially when we signed him, I was advocating for Onana. I said, why are we getting someone who's 2 times relegated? He's not going to be good enough. And that's the definition of don't judge a book by its cover. So now we're here, and I'm happy with the players. A lot of these players I actually have a lot of respect for and like watching Arsenal again. I don't feel like I'm waking up at 8 a.m. to suffer. Even if we lose, if we're playing respectfully and giving it our 110% on the pitch, officiating decisions, we can't do anything about it. But if we're actually turning up and performing like we have an identity in the squad, especially our midfield and defense, I'm happy about, and I'm very proud about this season.
Brilliant. So Nima, do you have any kind of original answer that doesn't just copy Melina and myself?
Yeah, I don't want to go over the same ground. Obviously, I agree with a lot of that, but I think the City game, just on that note, just to add to that, that was incredible. And then on the Partey note as well, I think when we saw Partey in the win before Christmas against Chelsea, that was the Thomas Partey that I thought we got. And then again against City, and I knew how vital. That's why I feel like our season fell apart once he got injured, because he was for me, the number one name on the team sheet. He was everything that we needed. Just the way he played, the way he got the ball forward for our players, it was everything we want. Now, obviously, I worry about how many games he can play in a season. So hopefully next season will be better. I don't like the fact that players are playing a lot more minutes recently. There's the World Cup coming up.
Ridiculous.
Smith Rowe's had injury issues all season, and he's started for the under-21 England team yesterday, even though we've qualified. I just don't. It's ludicrous. I don't like. He's going to be back in pre-season in 2-3 weeks. When are these players going to get a break from playing 70-80 games a year? So that annoys me a bit. That, I think. But we're talking about highlights, not bad things. So the highlights for me were really obviously we talked about the young squad. I was talking about how some of them, even say Nuno, he might not be a quite complete player yet. He's very raw. But I think some of the stuff that our players have, the likes of Martinelli and even Nuno, the things you can't teach. These are just pure raw skills and untapped talent that you can't teach. And then the question now is Arteta enough of a manager and coach to be able to get the best out of them to unlock the next level? I hope he is. Even if he's not, the new strategy we have is that these are young players. So that means that we can sell them on in a few years and not just do what we've been doing recently, which is let everyone go for free, pay off their contract to get rid of them. So I definitely prefer the direction we're going in. We were laughed at and ridiculed for signing Ben White compared to United signing like Varane, not to talk about them again. But, I can see which one I preferred in my team and which one has resale value going forwards and who's becoming an England international.
We're getting to the signing summary, so don't
So
go
yeah, we'll
yet.
talk about we'll talk about our signing review of the signings in a moment. I think just the final highlight is I think definitely the identity piece, the connection between the fans and the players. Certain games I saw what we're really trying to be long term and what we could be with those missing pieces filled. So I'm sure we'll give a season summary of the players plus who our targets are. I think just the final thought for me is just seeing people happy to support Arsenal again. Like I've spoken to so many Arsenal fans online, offline, and people are just happy again. And we have players that are so likable that many of them are liked by rival fans. I've got Tottenham
100%.
supporting friends who they hate every Arsenal player. Typically, they hated the likes of Jack Wilshere and Aaron Ramsey, but they can't hate Bukayo Saka. How can you hate God's child? How can you hate the guy who got great GCSE grades and goes to his high school and inspires the next generation of kids to work hard and study?
Incredible.
Like, how can you hate this guy? Like, he missed a penalty in a final at 19 years of age. And that's my highlight of the season. There, I got there in the end. I have to think out loud normally, as you know. My highlight is Bukayo Saka stepping up to take a penalty, and even Arteta saying afterwards,
"Oh, Chelsea."
My first thought was the penalty he missed a year ago. And for the bravery and courage to get up, take it, score, and then take multiple penalties from there and score them all. I just that was my hope. I was hoping when he missed that penalty, it would change his growth trajectory. And I think just on Ramsdale, Melina, a final thought, when everyone was cussing him out last year, I actually liked the fact he'd been relegated, because for me, I was in my mind thinking goalkeepers mature at such an old age. I've never seen a first team goalkeeper that's 26, 27.
Yeah.
Like, that's the age they start at, right? Because they retire later. So for a 22, 23-year-old goalkeeper to have played 100 plus games as a first team player, and he actually got relegated 3 times, not to correct you, but that was with the championship team as well.
Oh,
so
yeah,
he's been relegated a lot of times. And my thinking was, but you know what? Every year when he got relegated, he was the player of the season at his club. And like, a goalkeeper on his own can't stop a shit defense in front of him.
Yeah.
So my thinking was similarly that surely at such a young age to go through so much trauma and have so much first team experience, surely he can only get better from here. And that's kind of the same thing I mean. Like, I always like to look at adversity as a way for players who have the right mentality to embrace it and to keep going. And I think that's the squad we have now. We had players like Ozil, as you said, who I think he played in like 5 seasons north of Manchester twice. He always had a bad back or had a cold and never traveled, right? So that's a very different mentality. And as much as I'm looking for Pepe to move on, even Pepe, despite what happened with him, this season, Arteta said that there was a game and his wife gave birth to a newborn, and Pepe messaged him at like 3 a.m. and said, "Coach, I'm available for selection if you need me tomorrow." And he made himself available and came. And for me, that can only come from a united squad and an identity. Because when players like Holding, Cedric, Elneny, and Ketia all show up, and 4 of our starting 11 are French players who barely kick ball all season, and they will fight and die for their teammates, that's something that only comes if the team is united, and we've not had a united team for a long time. So that's a lot of different things, but some covering the same track, some new.
At least we had everything covered. That's the key part. Even if you've gone over stuff again, it's still covered. So I appreciate that. We'll go to the next part. So there's a segment I removed because it's unnecessary, because we kind of covered it in some aspects regarding the negativity of the season. So that's fine. But Mel, rather than go player by player, which was my initial plan, we'll be here for 4 hours. So it said just a good summary of the signings, really. You can pick them out. I mean, I think there were kind of like 6 major ones. Ramsdale, Ben White, Tavares, Lokonga, Erdegaard, and I'm missing someone.
Tomiyasu.
I think that was
Tomiyasu. Yeah. So maybe give a summary of what your thoughts. So you already spoke about Ramsdale, but please just.
I really want to pick out Tomiyasu. We signed him on deadline day, and honestly, I'm not gonna lie, I had no clue who he was. All I knew was he played for Bologna. And I never expected him to be really good on aerial duels. This guy came in and put a shift for us. It's a shame he got injured and wasn't available for injured twice. But when he came on and when he played for us, I felt calm watching Arsenal. And, when you watch Arsenal, it kind of feels like you're in an abusive relationship in the past. But this season, it was a lot of the time I felt calm.
A lot of hugs and cuddles.
Yeah, a lot of the time I felt calm. Tomiyasu really played for the badge and was a signing that I really felt was a steal. Another one I want to mention, and I was someone when the transfer window opened, I was advocating for James Maddison from Leicester. Obviously, that didn't happen. We weren't, going to pay the fee. And Leicester are very hard to do business with. As you know, they sold Maguire for a lot of money, Ben Chilwell to Chelsea. But getting Odegaard from Real Madrid, Odegaard for me was signing of the season and Ramsdale. You could argue. Odegaard, this guy played for the badge, was a leader, and arguably next season, either him or Kieran Tierney can be our captain next season. And I wouldn't
Odegaard
be
for me.
surprised if Arteta chose Odegaard. That leadership and the mentality he has, yes, he's been captain of his country for Norway. And I've never seen a player like that. The caliber and the footballing IQ he has, he has a very directness to his game. One thing I want him to improve, though, is when he's in the right positions to shoot, sometimes he doesn't take the chance. He just passes it forward to another player. And then because that happens, another player from the opposition team is able to get in and, pass the ball away and preventing us from taking the chance on target. I want him to become more confident. And I think that comes with more game time, with more minutes, practicing more in training. But the guy, I know there's a player in him, and I'm glad to see that at Arsenal versus at Madrid, where he was warming up the bench and not really getting minutes there. So I'm glad we gave him a future. He looks like he's enjoying his time here and having a good relationship with the manager. There's a lot of players that we've signed this season who have vocalized that they've had a good relationship with the manager, and that's something that we didn't have in the past, and that goes again hand in hand with identity. Ben White, again, as Nima was saying, some people argued Varane, Championship Varane, Champions League Varane. We're paying 50 million for Ben White. People were always on that price tag, but not realizing that it wasn't something we could avoid because of the English tax in the market at the time. And I think Ben White and Gabriel, that partnership and getting Saliba back is something I'm really looking forward to next season. It would strengthen up our defense even further. And I think that's, those kind of small pieces as a whole, it really brings depth in and something that we need. So I think Ben White also, sometimes he did make mistakes, but every player is going to do that. But I am looking forward to next season and seeing how well these signings will improve. The likes of Tavares and Lukanga, personally, I feel that they're going to be sent on loan for more first-team experience somewhere else, hopefully in the Premier League or outside. Pepe, it's a previous signing. Unfortunately, it didn't work out for him here, and I think he might be going back to France.
So you're telling me you didn't like picking between three centre-backs that consisted of David, Luiz, Mustafi and Socrates?
Oh my gosh.
You don't think those experienced internationals have more allure than Ben White, Saliba and Gabriel, no?
Those names,
I'm giving you some trauma.
Those names give me PTSD. Even when I see them post on Instagram, I always think, Hector Bellerin. It just seemed like they didn't have the mentality to continue playing for the badge. And I always say, if the cannon is too heavy, don't wear the shirt. And now we have players who actually want to wear the shirt and play for the badge.
It's interesting you say that because Arteta said something about, I don't want players that don't understand like what it means to play for Arsenal. Like this is the biggest thing in the world. Like you're playing for one of the biggest clubs with the biggest fan bases. And if you can't understand that, then get out the club.
Or don't take it for granted even.
Yeah. I think Odegaard, so just signing summary. I just want to add to Odegaard because I do think he will be made club captain. The reason I think that is because obviously Tierney can't be relied on to start most games. And I although like we might see like a captain vice captain thing where if you remember where Per was like the captain, Mertesacker, but then like Arteta was the vice captain, but because Mertesacker didn't play, Arteta was actually the captain on the pitch. There might be a similar model where like someone like Tierney, or I actually think controversially even Ben White, they might end up being the captain with Odegaard as the vice. I'd rather it's Odegaard as the captain.
Sorry, Nima. Sorry to interrupt you, Nima, but I'd love to add to that point because Tierney's made a glass for me. I can't rely on him, and he's at a point now where I'm getting very frustrated that we own him because He's a player who
Do you
plays
guys
50.
know? Sorry, when we bought
Oh.
him, we bought him injured.
We
as
bought him
well.
injured. Yes.
Yeah, he'd been playing with injuries for
Yeah.
years, and he'd been running to the ground already,
It-
right?
And it's for the
he-
Scotland team that this happens when they're trying to
we
qualify.
lost him because of an international.
Well,
yeah,
Yes,
I think it was a
it's-
friendly as well, by the way. I
It
don't
was.
think it was even a
It
qualifier.
was.
You're right. It was. But the thing is, he tries to play every game as a superhero. The man doesn't know how to kind of contain his energy levels. He's 100 miles an hour all the time.
It's like
So I think
Martinelli 2 seasons ago, but
it falls on
Martinelli
the
got
player.
caught. Like Martinelli came back from injury. We were all saying, "Oh, Arteta hates him. Why doesn't he
I
play?
remember that,
He's been
yeah.
back for months. What's going on? We're going to
Precisely.
sell him." And then he said in the interview that, well, I've learned from Arteta, or like Arteta said about him, to not like when to go 100 miles per hour. Like,
Exactly.
you don't need
and not
to
to rush
always go
players
100.
back from injury.
But that's what Tierney does, isn't it? He's 100 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Someone needs to put an anchor on his ass because he's unable to understand how to control his energy levels. So for me, it falls on him because he just plays every game like it's his last game.
It's like Wilshere as well. He played in that kind of way where,
Exactly.
you could argue that he was inviting in these late challenges that kept injuring him. Like at some point, the player needs to realize their body as a pro athlete can
Can't
only
take it.
last so long. And they
Or
need
not to go
preserve
in
their
for
career.
every challenge. Some things you can sit out or let another player take it.
You got it precisely. So for me, Tierney should be nowhere near the captaincy.
Fine.
And
So I think we might probably still have the 5 captains again. So
I
he
think
may
Ben
be
White.
one
No,
of
but
the 5.
I love the Ben White one because before Erdegaard in the last 2 months, I was thinking I'd like Ben White to be the captain because he personally is my signing of the season. So it's a weird segue. I've loved watching him play. I love the fact that he progresses with the ball. I think he's more reliable than Gabriel. He doesn't make rash challenges. If you guys look at my tweets, I've been very, very vocal about how honestly petulant Gabriel has been at times with his errors.
Sometimes he's hot-headed.
Sometimes
like
he's
run
very
out.
hot-headed.
He still does it.
One
And
of
it
the
costs
games he
us.
costed us. We
Exactly.
actually lost that game because of Gabriel's decision-making. It was very rash.
Precisely.
And he's had an extra year with us, right? Whereas Ben White has come in, he's slotted straight in.
Exactly.
And I think when he's not had to deal with either reckless games from Gabriel on his left or Cedric on his right when Tomiyasu is not available. When you look at Tomiyasu and White together, the way they complement each other, the way they work, it was great. So I love that. And for me, Ben White, like the games we didn't have him showed how much we missed him because we could not progress the ball back out of the defense. Like we just could not get the ball
because
forward.
Holding doesn't have that ability.
Yeah.
So I like him, but I think just on Odegaard, again, like I can't believe like how angry people were about him because like this is a guy who maybe there was a lot of expectation on him because he's been like a child prodigy, right? People have been playing with him in Football Manager for like 10 years. Like the guy was meant to be some world-class player 10 years ago, 12 years old, right? So from 16 years on, he's never had a home. He's been bounced around loan after loan after loan on the bench at Madrid. And he said himself that he finally feels at home. And in those 6 months where he was on loan with us, obviously there was some moments where we saw what we wanted from him, but
glimpses,
it was glimpses though, and there were some injuries and it wasn't quite right. Now people were really attracted to Maddison. Obviously he got lots of goals and assists this season. I think he plays a very different role, but he would have cost like 18 million to get someone like Odegaard for 30 million from Madrid. That is a steal.
It's a steal.
This is a player that we should not be anywhere near. For me, he has all the creative playmaking of a player like Ozil that we loved, but all of the off-the-ball work ethic that Ozil never had. He presses elite. Everything he does, he will fight and die for that.
And his first touch is very good. He has a clean first touch. You didn't see that from some of our players in the past. So that's something he also brings into the table. But he's another player who's very, very vocal, and I like that about him.
I think if you noticed as well, whenever there was like a water break or an injury, anytime when Arteta wanted to speak to someone, that was who he's. Arteta might not be able to get the players to do what he wants.
He's Arteta on the pitch.
Yeah, because that's what Arteta was to Wenger, right? Like
I think there was one game.
Player.
I think there was one game where Arteta pre-assisted, and I think it was Odegaard or Martinelli that actually scored that goal. Yeah,
where he threw them the throwing ball so that they could throw.
I think that was against Watford. I think that might have been the Watford goal. Maybe, That
was great to see everyone do their part, including the manager on the touchline.
And that was really fast too.
That was incredible. I love that. So just a final thing.
Please,
I think Nuno, I do think he should go on loan, but it might be nice to keep him till January just so he gets some Europa minutes because I don't think we quite know what we have yet. We don't actually know what this player is yet. And he used to be a left winger, so like obviously he's going to be defensively weak. But I think we just need to see what we have, and then maybe we loan him out in January once those easier Europa League ties are out of the way, perhaps, if we progress further. With Lokonga, he was obviously the captain at Anderlecht. Vincent Kompany absolutely loves him. Lots of teams want him. So again, I feel like it's a lot to ask a 22-year-old new to the league to be the lone pivot when it took Partey nearly a year and a half to do it. So I do have high hopes for some of these players to improve. But the ones I'm very happy about that I feel like immediately made an impact are the likes of Ramsdale, White, Tomiyasu, and Odegaard. I'm really happy with all of them. Tomiyasu, I love him. I lived, I don't know if you know this, I lived in Japan for 6 months when I was 17. And Japanese people are so diligent. They have such a hard work ethic. And I can see that in Tomiyasu, that he's just a good guy. Like, he's a great, put it this way. If I had a daughter and she brought home Tomiyasu to introduce me to him, I would be like, yes, you can marry my daughter. He's just a good man. He's a good person. And he wears his heart on his sleeve. So that's my glowing kind of testament about Tomiyasu. Like, I would let him marry my daughter if I had one. Like, he's just a great guy, all-round great guy.
I'm clipping the hell out of that. And he clicks. Okay. So there was a point you made about Tavares, and I wanted to make a few thoughts about him now. Nuno Tavares, I don't want him being culled in regards to the type of what he brings. But unfortunately, when Tomiyasu got injured and Holding doesn't know how to progress the ball, Tavares couldn't play in the team because, we can't have Cedric and Tavares. I mean, here's the 3 points, guys, if we're going to play those two. Now, where I'm really excited next season is with Saliba coming back, is I could see if Tomiyasu is unavailable, or when Tomiyasu plays and we play Nuno Tavares, is what we like to do on the ball is we like to adopt 3 at the back.
Yes.
Which would be Tomiyasu, White, and Gabriel. And then Tavares would kind of be pushed to that winger position or Tierney. With Saliba in the team as well, whichever one of those 3 is out, let's just say, is Saliba could come in to centre-back and then someone like Ben White could go to right-back, as we saw at times last season, which would really excite me in regards to Tavares' kind of transition from defence to attack. Because in the offensive areas, Tavares is I think he's really good at it. I think he really is. He's very raw, as we know, but I think he's going to build into that through maturity. Again, Nima, you made great points. These are the guys' first seasons, but out of all the players I saw, and, the guys who were saying very obvious, Ben White, Tomiyasu, Ramsdale, Odegaard, very obvious about what they brought to the team. But Tavares is someone that I feel has raw things you can't teach. He's pacey as hell, very good at dribbling. I actually think he's got a decent delivery, even though he didn't really do it too much last season. And who the hell was in the area, right, to put away the chances? I feel hopefully next season, if we keep Tavares, which I want us to, I don't want him to loan him out for the reasons you were saying, Nima, but also I think he can be trained into that wing back position, if you like, when we have those 3 defenders who are more defensive, if you like. If Cedric is playing, I never want Tavares on the pitch, for example, because Cedric is not good defensively and not really.
And he bombs forward,
And he bombs forward and doesn't really do much. I tell you what he's good at. He's always in the celebrations. He's always
with
the first guy you see.
Photobombing. No, he's always photobombing.
He was even with Patino after Patino's goal. He's with every youngster. I don't know how he gets there first.
Exactly. Yeah. But
about Tavares, what I like about him the most, right, Ray, is I have not, and I don't mean this offensively to him, but I have not seen a player in Arsenal's team that was so much chaos since Yaya Sanogo. Now, the reason I say no offense is because like players like that, right? Like the opposition doesn't
Nottingham
know what
Forest
to do.
game, he was
like, yeah, but
no
one knows
it's the
what
chaos he brings on the pitch.
I was in the chaos, as in the chaos, as in no one knows.
No one knows what he can do.
You'll think he's going to be a left.
He doesn't know.
Thing you know,
he doesn't even know what he's doing.
Yeah, like suddenly he's in the box taking a shot from centre forward position. You're like, when did he get here? Like the opposition, you were marking him. No, it's your fault. And like it was similar with Sanogo. But you
want to give him that kind of freedom. If you have those 3 at the back, as I was saying, because when Tierney was unavailable and he was playing very well, we had those coverage. 3 guys at the back to protect him. Exactly.
I think we all forget about that period where when Tierney first came back, Tavares actually kept him out of the team for a couple of games.
I remember that,
yes, he did.
And so people were saying at that time, people were saying on social media, oh, Tavares can take Tierney's place. Like, they went so far to say that. And then now It's the other way around.
So quickly they want to sell him and they're like, cut your losses. I think he was like a 4 million or 8 million pound 22-year-old kid. Like, I think we could have done worse, right? Like,
I agree. So I think next season, I'm really excited. Hopefully, if we keep Tavares, is that we can harness more of that chaos and unpredictability to a point where it's going to be a great asset, and we won't be punished offensively.
Yeah.
And I think that transitions well. And Nima, will start with you in regards to our expectations of next season. Now, you kind of delved into it in the beginning, but we didn't go too deep into it because I kind of want to keep into the segment, if you like. But what are your expectations next season? Like, let's just say we get, hopefully, I mean, there is a signings part here, but let's say we get the players that we want, which is probably a striker, kind of a left centre midfielder, maybe someone like Tillemans that I'm hearing a lot about, and maybe even another backup defender. Let's just say we get those players, and I feel we will get those players, but hopefully at the right quality. What are your expectations, hopes, acceptable performance next season?
so I think for me, like, it's hands down, we have to win the Europa League. Like, whether we get top 4 or not, we have to get back into the Champions League. Now, whether that's through the top 4 or through winning the Europa, I want to be in the Champions League. The way Spurs have strengthened, the way that, like other teams like City and Liverpool have, I think the top 4 looks very difficult to get into. You got Chelsea, Spurs, Liverpool, and City. I feel those 4 are the most likely to get in there. As much as I hate to put Tottenham in that bracket, they are filling in the gaps where they need. I feel like for us, it will be difficult. You got the likes of United who are going to try and revamp. I think they'll struggle. Our one positive is that we may actually, I think Chelsea will be the one that might suffer more than Spurs in a top 4 battle because they just lost 3 of their senior centre backs and they're renowned for how good their defense was. That's what kind of carried them a lot of times when they won 1-0 against teams they shouldn't have won against. It was because they were being pulled out by their defense. And now they've lost all of that. There's a new ownership. A lot can happen. And Lukaku wants to leave. They don't Inter don't want to pay the loan amount. Like, there's a lot of stuff going on there. So I do think Spurs with Conte might have a bit more of a clear path to top 4. So I think Chelsea is the one we're going to be competing against, or Spurs, but City and Liverpool, they're goners, right? United, I don't think they're going to catch up quite yet. Their identity is going to take a while to resolve. We saw that ourselves over the last 2-3 years. But then you got the likes of Newcastle who are going to be coming in hot. And maybe not this year, maybe not next year. But in the coming years, as Melina said, these other teams around us, if we don't keep up our progress now, they will come for us. So we need to keep going. The likes of Leicester, they had lots of defensive injuries. I don't think they're going to be as bad next year. So,
and
again,
have Europe. And they don't have Europe.
Yeah, they don't
exactly.
Have
so, there's a lot of these teams that are going to be hungry. They're going to be coming for us. And we got to be careful, I think. So for me, like, if we miss top 4 and let's say we came 5th, it was 1 or 2 points, but we did great. We played well. And we had the extra 15 games from going all the way and winning Europa, I'd be happy. But we would have to win Europa for me to accept that non-top 4 finish. So for me, it's all about returning to the Champions League, accelerating the trajectory of our plan. And however we get to that Champions League, I would like a trophy with it. So I would rather win the Europa than the FA Cup or Carabao. We are, Team FA Cup. Like, it is called the Arsene Wenger Cup for a reason. I don't think any manager in the history of football will win more FA Cups than he did. Because for one, they would have to actually manage a Premier League club for 7 seasons, which just isn't a thing these days. And then they'd have to win it all 7 seasons. So it's just not going to happen. Like, what Wenger did, like, no manager in English football will do again. So we won enough FA Cups. We got laughed at for only winning FA Cups for the last 10 years. I want to win this European trophy. I want to put to bed all the rival fans and their banter who think football started in 1994. Because we do have some European silverware, but they don't consider them European because they're pre-Champions League, pre-Europa League. But we still have 2, so they can get in the bloody box. I won't swear, but I was going to put an F-bomb in there, but I don't want to be like other channels, like my own, where I just swear every minute. But I want to be more classy for you, Ray. I know you're a sophisticated man. 30 years supporting Arsenal, and I have more grey hairs than you. So you must have been there for the good years, because I think those bad years have taken a few years off my life expectancy. So yeah, that's it. So rant over. I want to come 4, and I'll accept 5th if we win the Europa. My biggest goal is I really want to win the Europa. We've gone to the final a couple of times. We've gone to the semis. We've come close. I really want to see our young players get the experience of winning a trophy like that. And like that is the one I want. And it's a guaranteed entry into Champions League no matter what. So that's what I'm pushing for. And if we don't get that, if we don't win any trophies and we don't get top four, I do think there will be serious questions asked of Arteta. But just to say, I think we were right to extend his contract because it would have expired in 2 years. Well, sorry, it would have expired next summer. And the likes of Bukayo Saka, they're not going to sign a long-term contract if they don't even know if the manager's staying. Our summer targets, they're not going to come if they don't know the manager who just told them what their place is in his system, if they don't even know if he's going to be staying. So I think we got that done early because we wanted to go into this window where the players who we're attracting or the contracts we're trying to renew, they know that at least the manager they're signing for is here for a few years yet. Now, whether he performs well enough to stay beyond next year, we'll see. But I think, unlike other Arsenal fans who maybe don't like the extension, it would be ludicrous to think people like Saka are going to sign an extension without a manager being committed to the project. So that's my 2 cents.
Mel?
I agree with most of what Nima said. My expectations is the exact same, top 4 and Europa League. For me, next season, if we do not get Europa League, a trophy like silverware, then I really think Arteta's job is very much so on the line. I don't think he will have a future or rotation at this football club. And prior to that, his contract, some people were questioning, we shouldn't have extended it. But then again, there was not really available managers at the time, other available managers that are experienced. And possibly you could argue if we got someone else that was inexperienced, we would be back in square one all over again, trying to create a new identity under whoever manager. They might want to change everything up, and we'd be like a United right now. My other expectations going into next season is I really want to see the likes of some of our youngsters, like Smith Rowe, Tomiyasu, Lukonga, Odegaard. I want to see them improve. So individual players' expertise, I want to see them strengthen as well. And I want to see this team take it to a next level when we play in Europe. Last season, we only played once a week. There wasn't so much pressure until the second half of the season. But next season, we're playing a lot more games. We're playing, Thursdays and weekends. I want this team to step up as a whole. And, that comes into your next segment of the signings. Depending on whoever we sign, we need to strengthen this team. And our expectations are not going to be met if we don't improve this team with the quality signings that we need to sign. And it doesn't necessarily mean that without Champions League, we can't attract certain signings. Some signings are willing to come to us still without that Champions League because of either their relationship with the manager or because they like that project that we're working on, Project Hughes.
No, that's amazing. Well said, I think. But the years where we can still attract these big players despite no Champions League, they're running out. So we do need to soon get back. Like we're surviving on like an era where every
the past
player
merit
watched, Wenger's French team basically. But there will come a point when we can no longer attract them on previous glories or the project.
Yes.
I think
that was the merit comment I was making earlier, isn't it?
100%.
Yeah, you're quite right. We don't have a lot. We don't have a lot of time. We're talking about maybe 2 years. I'm gonna make who do you think we should sign this summer, because it was a question, the last question.
Yep.
Okay.
But we will go to community questions. We've only got about 3, and then I'll look to wrap it up. First of all, guys, really appreciate it again. It's been brilliant. It seems like you've both been enjoying yourselves, so that's key. So we'll go. Of course, we've all been teased at one point or another, but at FPL Chips, why did we capitulate at the end of the season, giving Tottenham a free pass in the Champions League? I don't think giving Tottenham a free pass, you've got to give credit where it's due. They went on some mad run. And Son and Kane are like elite. They could probably get into any team in the world. And they stayed fit. So, Mel, we kind of covered it, but was there any moment that you kind of felt, shit, we're gonna lose it here?
Honestly, the last 2 games of the season really hurt when we couldn't turn up for it, and we really, that North London derby, I really thought these players would bounce back. Prior to the North London derby, I believe we just lost a game even before that. So I thought after the North London derby, these players would wake up, have the mentality to fight back, like we did against Man City at home. Even though we lost that game, we were on a poor run before that. And going into that game, we turned up. And I thought these players would really give 110%. But of course, that wasn't the case. The mentality wasn't there, or it was just a bad day at the office overall. Bar injuries happen to every single team. We all know that. That's no excuse. But one thing Tottenham did that we didn't was reinforcements in January. Kulusevski, not only in FPL, but this guy has been glued to their team and strengthened their team. Romero, a lot of people made fun of Romero. A lot of people made fun of their defensive back line, but they did turn up. There was a point where I had triple Spurs in my fantasy team, and I'm an Arsenal fan. I normally don't do that. I dread to do that. But like Nima said earlier in this stream, Spurs, with the elite manager that they had moving forward into the rest of the season, he had a game plan and a vision, and Levi backed that with quality signings. Kulusevski was a quality signing.
Did they get a centre mid as well in the January window?
Yes, they did.
Bentancur,
yes.
yeah.
And awesome who did we sign in January? No one. We signed no one. Matt Turner and Trusty, who isn't even playing for us until
Trusty the process.
Exactly. The other thing I want to say, though, what Nima said earlier was Spurs, they have two quality players in their team, which we don't necessarily have. We have a very young squad that we relied on for the whole season to play through. We overplayed Bukayo Saka. We thinned our squad even further than it already was. And we took a gamble to rely on Nketiah and Lacazette up front. So who was going to score the goals for us? Where was it going to come from when our center forwards were not turning up? And I don't agree with the second part of this question. With all due respect, I don't think we gave Tottenham a free pass. I think we gave our 100% throughout the season. At the start of the season, no one had us in top 4, and for us to be this close to it, yet not finished there, it showed how much we improved, and it showed how much the mentality of this club changed. And I think there's a lot more positives than negatives throughout this season.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think one myth I want to put to bed is that we only played once a week and played less games, because I remember seeing both Man United and Spurs played like 3 games more than us all season.
Yeah.
So I really want to put that myth to bed, because I'm sorry, playing 3 games more than us at the start of the season does not somehow mean that we had so much more time to relax. No, we really did not. And they changed not to moan about fixtures, but they changed the directive. So teams who played in the Champions League on Wednesdays would no longer play at 12:30 on a Saturday.
Yes.
But when it was us and we played in the Prem on
we had Monday night games too.
We had to play on so we were playing like on a Wednesday evening, and then we're playing first kickoff on a Saturday.
Yes.
Even though they explicitly made changes over the last few years to stop Champions League clubs having to do that. And then when you talk about it on Twitter, people will be like, "Oh, but you've only been playing once a week. Why does it matter?" And
why are you moaning? Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry. Like, the whole point is Arteta's not moaning about this. We're saying, why are there periods where we're not playing any games for we're playing 2 in 3 weeks?
But then
why didn't you squeeze in the fixtures then?
Yes.
And that's what I don't like about the broadcasters, because I genuinely feel that they sometimes put the fixtures where they think it will benefit them most. So putting like a North London derby at the end of the season, because it might be a top 4 battle still, that's going to benefit them with number of people watching it live. And I do feel that the broadcasters have a bit too much of a say in when people play, and the fans are not put first. People buy tickets, and 12 days before they're told the game has moved from a Sunday to like Monday away at Newcastle. And now the club will put you on a £12 bus that takes 12 hours to go there, 12 hours to come back. Our friend Clayton, FPL Greener, 1886, he got home at 5 a.m. on the Tuesday morning after going to Newcastle away, right? And that's not right. This is a game that came from the grassroots for the communities around these teams. And to think it's been taken over by money to this level where the broadcasters can do whatever they want, that doesn't sit right with me. I think just all in all, we weren't expecting top 4. People will say we were 7 points ahead of Spurs and we capitulated. That period where we got like 27 points out of 30, we were overperforming. I'm sorry to break it to people, but with 18 outfield players, mainly kids, to even do what we did between January and March, that's what made us think we could get top 4. And when we stopped overperforming, when the fatigue kicked in and these young players like Bukayo Saka played at least some time in all 38 league games, we should not be relying on a 19-year-old last year who's now 20 this year to be our back-to-back player of the season like that. Like, I'm sorry, that's how we overplay players like Wilshere into the ground. So for me, it was the lack of depth that got us in the end, and an inexperienced young team. They just didn't have that mentality to get through. And just a final point, we don't have the world-class players of a Son and Kane or a Ronaldo. I remember there was a period of 9 games in the Prem where United only won 2 games. In both those games, Cristiano Ronaldo scored a hat-trick. Who do we have that will just randomly score a hat-trick, no matter how terribly we're playing? No one. And that's why this summer, and I know we're going to come to it, my goal is not just about depth. We need depth too, but we need to find 2 or 3 starting 11 players who are not the under 23s we went for last summer, but maybe they're 25. They're already experienced. They're just entering their prime, and perhaps they already have Premier League experience. And we'll come to those later, but that's what we need. We need 2, 3 starting 11 players who are a bit further along in their growth journey, so that then these youngsters can stop being relied on to the extent they didn't. That's why I think we capitulated, because thin squad, young squad, they kind of made us expect things of them that we would never have expected had they not overperformed the way they did.
Yeah, and hold that thought. So at Getty, for the respect of me always sharing comments, I'm just going to say yes. Okay? Yes.
Of course
it's
stings,
done.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah.
And that's it. That's it. Let's
I don't know if it's 7 or 8 years. I think it's like 5 years, but we'll give you the 7 or 8. All I remember is when we were in the Champions League for like 24 years straight, we were told top 4 is not a trophy, and that's the thing that everyone fights for. When teams like Liverpool and Spurs got into the Champions League twice in 10 years, no one batted an eyelid, right?
Only when it's Arsenal, it's a big deal. Yes.
That's what I was saying about we're an easy target. Like, they just want the clicks. Let's forget the haters and enjoy the new positive sentiment around our club and the fact that we can enjoy being Gooners again for the first time in a long time.
Last question, and the most fun one. So, Nima, you were going for it. No, you were speaking about it, but who do you think will sign this summer? And I guess, really, who would you like us to sign realistically? So, sorry, no Mbappe. Sorry.
Yeah, no. So I think I'd love, as much as he is French, if only when Wenger went to see his parents when he was a kid, he'd chosen us back then, eh? We could have sold him for like 200 mil by now. But that's a shame, isn't it? Wenger,
we could have had Drogba and Ronaldo and all that.
Messi as well. You know about that. Messi.
You forgot Kante.
Yeah, he tried everyone, man. Like, Wenger was at everyone's parents' house when they were 12.
Mel's future husband.
No, but in reality, I think we definitely need the centre forward, especially with the extra games in Europa. We do need a left centre mid. We do need a backup fullback, I think, especially if we do send someone like Tavares on loan or if Cedric leaves. We were linked to the other Scottish player now. Is it Aaron Hickey?
From Bologna. Yeah.
So I wouldn't mind taking him as a backup fullback, see how that goes. The last Bologna player went well, as you saw with Tomiyasu. So the other thing is, I really want Tielemans. From what I understand, he is a prime target for us. I have in the past accused him of looking lazy, like he doesn't care on the pitch and walking around. But I think I would feel the same too if I was at his caliber and Leicester played the way they did last season. What I have seen from Tielemans is that he has all 3 phases of play in his locker. From the first phase, from receiving from the back, the second phase, driving forward, but more importantly, the third phase of actually creating and scoring.
Yes.
That is something that I don't think someone like Basuma has. So although there's people talking about, like Basuma's going while me in for him for Spurs, I think that's a positive for us because it means that that's one less potential rival who might try to swoop in and ruin our Tielemans deal. It sounds like we're pretty confident of signing Tielemans by the end of June this month, especially, and that should accelerate once this international break with the Nations League, for instance, ends. So I'm really excited to get him. He's 25. He's had years of experience in the Premier League. He's great in the left centre mid role, and I'm really excited about what he could bring. I think for me, he's vital, and I would kill to get Gabriel Jesus because, again, he's a 25-year-old player who is not going to play first choice after Haaland and Alvarez were signed, both of them for City. He can play multiple positions. He's versatile. He can play anywhere in the front three, and we do need to give Saka some rest at some point. So I'd love to see if, for me, Jesus feels like a Alexis Sanchez style signing where Sanchez looked great at Barcelona and we knew he was good, but something wasn't right. It wasn't quite clicking or it wasn't the right system or whatever. He came to us and there was a season where he was arguably world class. Like, he is one of the best players on earth. Like, he performed in a way I couldn't. It was like 35 goals, 18 assists. He was killing it. Like, he was electric. And that's what I'm hoping we can get from a Jesus style signing. A player who comes, he's already ready to go, and we just go for it. Plus, it will be funny to have like 3 people called Gabriel in the team. But yeah, those are my main targets. Unrealistic target, by the way. Obviously, we were linked with Jarrod Bowen and Rafinha. Recent news came out that the Bowen thing is real, but only if we can't get Saka to extend the contract, which kind of means it's not real. We're not going to get Bowen. West Ham will charge extortionately. The reason Rafinha really excites me is that if Chelsea go for Dembele, which it looks like they will, that will mean people like Jesus and Rafinha will be off their radar because they were also apparently in for Jesus. Madrid wanted Jesus, but they have no more non-European spots open, so they can't get him. So I'm starting to get more excited that these are realistic. Rafinha, Barcelona have agreed terms with him, but they can't afford to buy him. And, this is exciting. If Tottenham get Richarlison, take him. Because, again, you take him, and that leaves Rafinha potentially open for us to swoop in right at the end. So if we can get like a Rafinha on one wing and Saka on the other wing, oh my God, we're cooking. So, yeah, Rafinha is my outrageous target. He's the one I would do anything to get Rafinha, I think, over Bowen even. And I think he's more realistic than Bowen for the reasons I said. But Tielemans and Jesus, they're a must.
Mel?
Just to echo what Nima said, one thing that wasn't mentioned previously was Hickey. Arteta, we know from the previous season, he likes the versatile players, just like Tielemans can play left center mid and right center mid, anywhere on that front. Hickey is also someone who can play on the left or the right, and I'm looking forward to that if we sign him. It's very looking likely that we're going to have Jesus and Tielemans wrapped up. Tielemans is a player I'm very much so looking forward to. I don't think at Leicester he was able to give his full potential in that team. I think a lot of the times he was outshadowed or not even played enough, barely given enough game time. And I think here at Arsenal,
And the
he would have
formation changes as well.
He would have more game
3-5-2,
time. He would be
3-4-3.
in a lot more identity in this team, and we can get the most out of him. And I know he's not in the best of shape, but he can work. Go to the gym and bulk up, and just to see Jesus, Tielemans, Saka, and another target that I really want, like Nima said, is Rafinha. Rafinha is a brilliant player. That Premier League experience in him is something we need. And, with Chelsea going for Dembele, Spurs potentially going for Lautaro Martinez from Inter, and, Richarlison, I think Rafinha could very well and truly be ours, but it's just a matter of us actually putting in the bid. I know some people on Twitter had a meltdown with us not signing Bissouma, but I just want to make this clear. A lot of clubs did not actually seriously go for him, even though they were interested because he has a pending sexual assault case. And, the risk with that is obvious. You don't want to sign a player who something could potentially happen. And it's a huge risk on the club and also bad PR for the club as well. So I'm very much so looking forward to Jesus coming into our team. I think he would be a quality signing. And we haven't really had a proper striker. You saw last season relying on Eddie Nketiah and Lacazette, it didn't work out. Mind you, I wish Lacazette all the best back at Lyon. But this season, this summer window, I think we're doing business a lot earlier. The window just
we need to do it early, right? I want them there for preseason. We can't make the mistake of last season.
In America, a few weeks from now, I think we'll already have one or two signings up there. I know Marquinhos was our first developmental signing, but I don't really count him in what I'm looking for. And hopefully there is a player in Marquinhos. I don't know much about him, but I hope he does well. And whoever we sign, I just hope that they like to be here, they want to be here, and they play for the badge, and we give them our support. That's something that, some of these fans don't do. When we signed Ben White, it was always, he's 50 million, he's Ben Shite. Like, they made names, they mocked players, and, at the end of the day, they're human too. That's never going to get us progressing. So I'm looking forward to the summer window nonetheless.
How about you, Ray? Who are you most excited to sign on that note?
Well, I'm here to host. I shouldn't be giving opinions.
I'm gonna try to drag you back in. The host in me is screaming out.
Yeah, you guys touched on it, but Jesus and Tielemans are the guys that we absolutely need because they'll go straight into the first team. I think
they're both versatile, right? Is exactly what Melina was saying.
Yeah, well. I mean, if I break down Jesus, because I put a little bit about it, including formations about a month or so ago, is I love the kind of fact that he can change the dynamic during the game. And if we had like him, Saka, and let's just say Martinelli, you can imagine through the game that they'll all be kind of switching and transitioning between each other's and interchanging, and how confusing that obviously is for oppositions. And Jesus is so good at taking the wing play and then attacking in the late areas as well, doing advanced attacks, that I think it'd be absolutely brilliant for Arsenal. Like, seriously, brilliant. And for Jesus at 25 years old, in 3 years or 4 years, if it doesn't work out, he's still at his peak level to go to Worst case scenario. I mean,
He still has value in him if we're gonna sell him.
I work in project management. I always have to look at these things. Yeah, is that worst case scenario? We have him for 3 or 4 years. It doesn't work out. We could probably still get 60, 70 million because he's at his peak, like you said, resale value, and he'll still be good enough to go to like Madrid and Barcelona when the economy in La Liga starts to go up again, where they can afford these players. I almost say the same for Tielemans, but the difference with Tielemans is that he's actually coming up to a different level at Arsenal, and Tielemans is a Xhaka but better. You know, he hasn't got great recoveries, not great recovery tackles after it goes past him. But I tell you one thing, he's not that bad a tackler, and I think he'd be a great player to have with Erdegaard.
He's got a bigger turning circle as well. He doesn't turn like the Titanic.
But the chances that he creates is something that we didn't really have in this team, and we goddamn need that.
Precisely. And I think one of the really interesting aspects as well with someone like Tielemans is, like you were saying, is that he can be the guys who bombs forward when Erdegaard sits back, maybe.
Yeah.
Because you don't want
Aaron Ramsey kind of running the box. Yeah.
You don't want Erdegaard and Tielemans both attacking the areas, and then you leave Partey there who's, you know, he's also a guy who gets injured quite a lot. So you got El Neni there instead, for example. So you want to make... So what's exciting is I think Erdegaard and Tielemans are going to take turns in regards to attacking the areas, which is very, very exciting. So if we get those two players, I think it's going to make us probably 15 to 20% better, honestly, not only in our lineup, but then, for example, if Jesus comes, we can rest Saka and be happy with our lineup. You know, if Tielemans comes in, we don't have to always rely on Xhaka playing every goddamn game, even though he's been excellent. I agree with you. He's been top 5 players of the season.
So for me, Xhaka is better than Basuma. So the outrage to not sign Basuma is hilarious to me, because I honestly think he's a better player, apart from like Basuma's like quite good at box to box, so he kind of arrives sometimes in the box. But that side of Xhaka isn't there. But
my worry really is Tierney, because I want Hickey, because I've seen a little bit of him play, because I did watch more Serie A last season than I did before, and I had an invested interest in Bologna because Tommy Hassi used to play there. So when I watched him, I agree with you, Mel, is he could play left or right. He's very assured on the ball, good pace, very much like Tierney and Robbo, really. You know, their fullbacks, their left backs are kind of these kind of players, and I think he's a player that hopefully can obviously be a good backup. But as much as I hear about Rafinha, guys, I mean, do we have that much money?
I think it's a pipe dream, of course, but
no, it's definitely just paper talk. But hopefully we can. You know, I would love that. Would be
well. Apparently, the interest is real. So the interest is real. Like, we are genuinely interested. But you know, like, I'm interested in lots of things. It doesn't mean that I'm going to be able to do them. So just because we like, I think a lot of teams like Rafinha, doesn't mean we're the one that can get him, right? But I just want to say, you said we'll be maybe 15 to 20% better. And I want to touch on what Melina said earlier as well. I think some of these players, we can expect to get more out of them next year. So actually, my expectations, when I spoke about it, was mainly about what we do as a team. But as individuals, I do think we can get like 10% more out of Ben White. I do think we can get 5 to 10% more out of Tomiyasu, 20% more out of Odegaard, 10% more out of Nketiah. So I think, you know, as a sum of all our parts, I think, as cliched as it is, it will be greater than them as individuals. Like, the sum of all our parts will be more. And that's something that excites me. Bringing in players that actually we have more than one player that can play in a position because of the versatility. This last season, just a parting thought for you both, like, there was only one position on the pitch that I felt we actually had a dilemma of who to start, and that was left wing. There was no other position in our starting 11 that I thought, oh, there's 2 players fighting for the spot. It was just Smith Rowe and Martinelli. That was it. There was no one else in any other position that I thought there's actually 2 options here. And I know that one of Arteta's big things is he wants 2 starters in every position. Agreed. Now, we're many windows from that, of course, but by buying versatile players, like Tomiyasu plays left centre-back for Japan. He played left-back for us in games. He played right-back. You're saying Hickey can play both sides. You know, these are the kinds of players we want. We want Tielemans, Jesus. We want players like Saka who can play both wings. Like, we just, like, for all we know, Saka might play as a left centre mid one game, and it might be really good. And then you might start playing, you know, Martinelli and Smith Rowe both on the wings. So you never know. This is what I mean. Like, there's just so much opportunity for us. But we've got a very nailed down system now, which I like. And we can change formation mid-game that most teams in the Premier League can't do. So as much as there is novice kind of levels of experience in Arteta, What we did when we started with a back three against Chelsea and moved to a back four mid-game without having to make any substitutes, that excites me. So I'd like to see what else we can do with a very versatile squad and in-game management, and hopefully Arteta grows more into that as well.
Can I just add something to the signings of the summer? I forgot a player.
Oh, please, and then we'll wrap it up. I was about to ask you.
It's someone we actually have, but he only played one preseason game against MK Dons. And to me, it feels like a new signing because we're finally going to give him proper game time. It's bringing Saliba back into the Premier League. I think the loan spell really worked out for him. I know he's been on loan twice, and I think this current loan spell, seeing him do that against Mbappe at PSG, the way he's done in France, I know it's an entirely different league, but he's got the confidence that he needed. He's got the minutes, and I'm looking forward to seeing, how he transpires that back into the Premier League. So for me, that does figuratively feel like a new signing, because it will strengthen our defense, and it will strengthen our core. So I'm looking forward to see, will he transpire what he's learned at France over back at Arsenal?
If we signed him this summer, we would be going wild for the signing.
Yeah.
So it is basically a new signing, right? We would all be going crazy. Like I think people forget he'd only played 12 senior first team games when we first signed him. And had he come to us in either of the last 2 seasons, he would not have got the experience he just got at such a young age.
No, he would have really struggled. Yeah.
And we were knocked out of the tournaments early. There was limited scope to play. Would he have got ahead of Gabriel and White? Probably not. This season, he can challenge. And I think Arteta's pitch to him will be, you're maybe not in the starting 11 guaranteed, but you're the backup left centre-back, the backup right centre-back. If the right back gets injured, White will move to right back. You're also the backup. So for 3 of our back 4, if any of them are out or need a rest or are injured,
he's there.
He has a chance to come in and make that spot his own. So I think that will be part of the sell to him, that like, you got to fight for your place like everyone else does, but you have lots of opportunities to get into this team and prove you deserve to be here.
Yes.
Yeah, he should definitely be our Europa League centre-half no matter how far we go.
I agree.
He has to be guaranteed. Play the cup games, obviously the odd Premier League. Well, not the odd Premier League, but Premier League games as well. Specifically on what you said as well, he can pretty jump in no matter who's out, apart from the left back, obviously. Not that he'll play right back, but I know what you mean. Ben White plays over there as well. So, he could easily get 20 to 25 games. And, he is, what is he, 20? 21, 22?
Yeah. He was the young player of the year in the, in the French league. And
incredible.
He's broken into the French national team. And this is a national team that is stacked. Like, this is not a normal national team. The French national team.
Well, it's always been stacked. It's always been stacked.
Yeah. But it's just so stacked. So for him to break into that is actually incredible. And there was a lot of talk about him not wanting to come back and he wanted to go back to France. But he's kind of put that to bed with his recent quote. So I'm very happy to hear that he wants to play for this amazing club and he feels like he's not had a chance to connect with the fans yet. So exciting times ahead.
Massively mature. But guys, shit. That hour and a half, that 90-minute game absolutely flew by. So before I wrap it up, first of all, guys, thank you so much. This was a few weeks in the making. Mel, thank you for joining, making your debut. How did you find it?
Thanks for having me on your show for the first time. I've been wanting to join your show for a long time now. And I'm so glad to join the panel with you and Nima. It was a great chat. Really chilled. I enjoyed it.
That's good. Yeah, we'll make sure we do more. And Nima, this is your last time. So what do you think?
I'll be taking your membership badge away from the.
Oh no! What, my ring? My ring.
No, but hopefully as well. Just on that note, Melina, I know you guys are looking to do some stuff in Canada and Toronto, maybe a meetup. So there's a few people I've spoken to on Twitter. I'll talk to you after, but there's quite a few of you there now that I think are keen to do a meetup next season. So I'll put you all in touch with each other, and hopefully you guys can take our beautiful online community and make it offline and just like watch a game together and connect together across this one mutual obsession of FPL. I know today's been about Arsenal, and hopefully next season we'll have 3 Arsenal FPL players instead of Spurs.
Yes.
That's a wonderful way to end it. So guys, please make sure to follow Nima and Melina. I will make sure that their links are in the description, of course. I'll also put in at FPL Meets. Yeah, I just got to dig into Nima and just see how many things I need to put, because every time we speak, he's got a new initiative that he's part of. So
there's some more stuff. You might see an announcement in the next week or two. I might be making a second show for next year that's not FPL related, but I'll keep it to that for now. Yeah, I'll keep it.
Yeah.
So maybe
Well,
I'll
if you
be
need a
asking you
guest,
guys to be. Yeah, I might be asking both of you to come on.
But please like, share, and subscribe, guys. And I'll make sure I do a lot more activity. Melina and Nima, thank you so much once again. We're definitely going to do stuff again next season. And God bless. So bye from me, Mel.
Bye.
Smash that like button.
Okay.